Mercury goes direct, and what are its impacts? Well, the way I in my last video had explained how these planets have an effect on our psyche, especially the first 5 planets, which affect our moods, our attitudes, and that is how the personality also keeps evolving as we keep growing in life. Now, Mercury goes direct and starts its spin forward from June 3rd onwards. After 10 days, it enters the sign of Gemini until July 5th. Now, this planet of intellect and communication in the air of Gemini is like a double whammy. It lords over the airways and creates ripples of excitement. Race and prepare yourself to assess how you connect with the others and how well you present and market yourself in the world, in your work, in your personal life too. Meanwhile, Mercury is going to start its direct or the spin forward in the sign of Taurus. And Mercury is also known as the messenger of Jupiter. So in olden days, the close association of Jupiter and Mercury was observed very closely by the scholars. Jupiter, being the lord of abundance, always graces with abundance of choice, and Mercury, who also rules the intellect in human mind, tricks the mind in more ways than one. Hence it is said that Mercury has a way of tricking human minds. No wonder everyone has a different perception. Whosoever has Jupiter well placed in chart receives the benefits directly without filter. But anyone whose Mercury is strongly placed in the chart will receive messages of Jupiter, perceive it through the intelligence of Mercury. So the energy of Mercury actually helps us in disciplining our mind. When the intelligence is used correctly, we win many a battle in life. It has been advocated since long that through tests, trials, and observations of planets, our old sages discovered the correspondence macrocosm and the microcosm. As above, so below. Thus concluding that how the energy of each planet had a different effect on the human minds. The effect was slow when it was retrograde and intense when it is spinning forward. Today, we are discussing Mercury spinning forward, but before that, I need to apprise you all that there's only one planet whose effect or the impact is intense when it is spinning backward is Pluto. Barring Pluto, all the other planets, when they're spinning backwards, have a slow impact on a human person's mind, but when it's direct, the impact is pretty profound. Now, today we are discussing Mercury spinning forward, hence it is time to grab and create opportunities. Mercury in the olden times was known to be the ruler of heavens. It is said to represent the wisdom of the Creator and the vital intelligence in a man. A thought is generated out of mind's reflections, memory and experience. So Mercury is a spark of inspirational brilliance that ignites the new thoughts and meaningful connections with man's practical needs and developing consciousness. The progress and evolution of the world depends upon Mercury's probing genius and its power to discriminate. Its pure intelligence transcends time and place and appears from just nowhere. So actually, if you notice it yourselves also, ideas just come randomly, regardless of times, wherever you are, whether you're traveling, whether you're sitting or whether you're sleeping. So the ideas seem to generate in the mind from nowhere. That's Mercury for you. Symbolically, the planet's dual aspect. One side of Mercury is perpetually sunlit, whereas the other side or the other half is perpetually in a shadow, denoting the constant and necessary distinction between the conscious and the subconscious. So this little planet Mercury can actually explain the most complex ideas, formulate amazing concepts. It acts as a bridge between your spirit, mind and matter. Having no preference of his own, instead provides a channel of proximity. Mercury serves the human mind with the basest of desires and the most sublime aspirations. The energy of Mercury inspires a human mind through its various energies. All music, art, science, they emerge out of thoughts that are created from the mind. And these thoughts take shape when ignited by the energies of this planet. So magicians, they owe their skill to Mercury. Those who commune with the intelligence or the supreme intelligence in silence and solitude are dependent on the rumination that is caused in the minds by the planet Mercury. So you see, Mercury represents the power of man to study his inner world of thought and feelings without losing the sight of his or her own agenda or external nature. So today, I want you to understand how the planet Mercury behaves when it is going direct, because that is how a mind will also behave. So to the ancients, he was and is still believed that Mercury is a harbinger of prudence, cunningness, as well as theft. Mercury is usually depicted as a youth wearing a hat with wings. He carries a staff which looks like serpent's symbol of wisdom, intelligence, and trickery. So when Mercury is spinning forward, it has a very forceful demeanor. Its acumen requires a positive direction, for he can just as easily turn into a confident trickster and a cheat. That's why they say, don't have a mercurial mind, be consistent. But when Mercury is spinning forward, how can a mind be consistent? We only need to channel it in a very positive way. So the mind is always into inventing, as would a brilliant research scholar, always looking out for something exciting to discover. So the sunlit mercurial intellect needs to cultivate and connect with something worthwhile and significant to discover the lofty purpose, otherwise it may lose itself in the pleasure of its own detached efficiency. Mercury loves to pause briefly before it turns retrograde or direct. Now that it turns direct on June 3rd, obviously he is in his element. The reflection of his directness will be felt in your mind. You will feel exuberant. And it's difficult for Mercury to see things through. He's ever curious, always in motion. His task is to communicate his knowledge to others, and if he cannot find an outlet or cannot find one fulfilling way of doing this, or a fertile work or a fertile field in which to work, he will either fritter away his fantastic intellectual energy in superficial activities or use his considerable persuasive powers to cast a needless doubt, build up false hopes, or undermine. His urge is to instruct in mental processes regardless of the content. That doesn't matter. What matters is he needs to be engaged with either a productive work or a mischievous work. So Mercury has a very high-strung, volatile and restless disposition. Now, like his metallic namesake, his moods rise and fall with the temperature or with the company he is in. So he needs a fraternal hand on his shoulders, not so much to restrict, but to guide him. A warm, or I would say a warm sage-like hand, like that of the judicious and model Jupiter, who has the good of all humanity in mind and is not beyond rebuking or chastising the errant boy when he needs to be steadied. Or the steadying influence of Saturn, who can introduce Mercury to wisdom and curb his frivolity and vanity. And see the discipline of the universe. June 3rd, Mercury goes direct. June 4th, Saturn is going retrograde as if to keep a check on Mercury. Now, if you look at it, the pleasure loving Venus may overwhelm and distract Mercury further with a plethora of attractions. So, Mercury will never be short of good companions, but he needs to be careful of the impulsive element of Mars, the inconsistency and changeability of the moon, and the excessive stimulation of the sun. And if you look into your natal charts, all these signs are pretty close to each other and they're pretty fast moving. So, Mercury, as the emissary of the sun, allows us to discriminate beyond the confines of your instinct. He himself is unscrupulous, a connecting force between essential being and our own individual propensities. He is the lightning in the pitch black sky of the discursive thoughts that evaluates the living earth and relays to us through the reflection of our senses. So, without the flash of the Mercury intellect, the center of light and life, which is the sun, would remain an incomprehensible mass. So, for this reason, Mercury psychologically is associated with the central nervous system, the brain, and all the sense perception and your sensory organs. It relates the exterior world to our own unique nature. It is the link between our inner and outer, the interaction between the objective and the subjective realities, or we can say impersonal and personal realities. So this implies that our mind will behave exactly just the way Mercury behaves when it is direct. How we utilize this knowledge depends upon us. That's the free will that the universe has granted to us. So my comprehension is that involve yourself in constructive ways during this Mercury direct. Your ideas should work selflessly for the benefit of everyone as much as yourself. Conviction and confidence will bring in the desired results. All this is possible when you cultivate your communication skills, are able to articulate your words so that the message is sent across. A positive approach automatically helps you articulate your words, which have a very profound impact. Messages are driven home effortlessly. So, utilizing the energies of Mercury when it is going direct is tentatively very easy, as building trust in your ideas and working towards manifesting them is success half achieved. Or else you fritter the time away and would have to wait for the next turn of events when Mercury goes direct. And how again profound it is, the very thought that the universe gives us a chance 3 times, sometimes 4 times in a year to rectify and put our mind to work effortlessly. On June 3rd, 2022, Mercury turns direct in Taurus. Hence, you need to understand a little bit about this sign of Taurus, since planets, when they are going through the constellations, take the color of the constellation that they are in. Now, it's an earth sign. Taurus is an earth sign, and Taurus is an earth sign and even an earth energy. So the plodding and methodical influence of Taurus brings the Mercury's qualities down to earth. You can use your mind and considerable intellect towards building your career and business, which actually fills up your coffers. So it's money time, remember that. You can exercise being practical, looking before you leap, and also making sure that you are very realistic in building your ideas. Work hard you have to build your coffers. Taurus will not build your coffers. So Mercury says, use your intelligence, be practical and realistic, work hard towards manifesting your ideas or your goals, and money will automatically follow. You may be a profound thinker or a true conservative, or perhaps a little bit of both. If you work in a scientific field, then trust your elements, trust yourself, trust your ideas, albeit a little cautiously, Apply your well thought out theories diligently, observe and record the results. Maintain your diary. So be deliberate before concluding and be patient and firm, and a bit of constructive and conservativeness is required till the time Gemini is in Taurus, which is for tentatively the next 10 days after the 3rd of June. So your goal is to hold on to what you have, and if possible without running any extra risks. So this way you will garner a great deal more. Do not be obstinate and resist changes. In the age of Aquarius, the old tradition proven ideas need to be modified and given a new dimension. You don't have to discard them. You just have to give them a new dimension. And if in a position of power, see to it that the progress is by cautious evolution and not revolution. So with Mercury starting its forward motion in Taurus, individuals who aspire to be leaders will be able to articulate their words. If not, then a course in communication skills is required. It will benefit you largely. Now, this will help you reach impressive heights. During this time, you can possess an ability to establish a firm basis for the benefit of others, leading you glorious accomplishments and discovery of your own. So in short, it's a perfect time to prove your leadership qualities. With your planetary lineup in the constellation of Taurus, you have a fine chance of making money, as Mercury's usually capricious and flighty tendencies here are given direction. The acquisitiveness of Taurus and the mental wizardry of Mercury together often produces wealth. You can develop the intellect to read and absorb facts by being a pragmatist, learn your lessons from life, make your own notes so that you never repeat the same mistakes done in the past. As much as you respect theory, you must realize that it must be backed up by experience. Never undertake a venture until you have carefully studied the ground and accumulated the necessary knowledge. Leaving success to chance will be a foolish mistake. Take precautions, build a solid framework, and then patiently and doggedly fill in the balance. Keep your distractions at bay, focus on your purpose. Slowly, surely and steadily you must wear down the opposition, just as the sea erodes the coastline. You can become the personification of the way of attrition, or I would say personification, the war of attrition, meaning slow destruction. In the universal language, this is the time when truth prevails as good over evil. So you have to be persistent if you're convinced about your ideas. As you walk your talk, you inspire people and imprint your impressions. If you can adhere and take chances of becoming your best when Mercury starts to spin forward in Taurus, you would have built your foundations quicker than you think. What is the other side of the story? Well, if you miss out on this chance of building your foundations, then chances are that you may have to wait for a very long time. And you have exactly 24 days to lay foundation. But basically, I would take my bet the next 10 days after the 3rd of June, because once it goes into Gemini, then the two air sign, the wizardry of Mercury and the air sign of Gemini can be a total whammy for you, a double whammy for you. So once it enters Gemini, even though it may become very, very powerful, but then an air planet in an air sign doesn't have much tolerance or patience to plod slowly. So whereas an earth sign can help your ideas to be manifested secure. Avoid these habits. abstaining from sinking into a mental rut just because you dislike changes. Be ambitious. Be ambitious to better keep in mind the stagnancy brings in frustration and unhappiness, so bring in newness in your life. If your ambitions are too earthy or mediocre, you may not be able to make the best use of the abstractions and subtleties that Mercury has to offer. You may have the strength and massive solidarity of the bull, but without the defining influence of the airy and volatile planet, your views will remain fixed and repetitious. You may become excessively habitual and a bit of a bore. So you can have lapses of uncontrollable rage and intense irritation. Money and possessions eventually lure a person into a dark hole. If you allow your mind to rule your heart, then you lose out not only on your own identity, but also the purpose of life. So when Mercury transgresses through the earth signs, it actually nudges and encourages the individuals to believe in themselves and have the conviction of their thoughts. Little wonder that the two signs that Mercury rules are Gemini and Virgo. Now Gemini, an air sign, arouses a sharp curiosity and respect for knowledge. It has no tolerance for mysteries or the mysterious, while Virgo is impelled to solve all the complexities of life. The key to dealing with this transformation time is to be aware. Awareness will allow you to notice that when the planet was retrograde, it forced you to ascend, evolve, or surrender from situations that went beyond your control. This helped you to be in alignment with yourself and thereon go from strength to strength. So you needed a very healthy dose of patience, ensuring you were resting and recuperating. Now the Mercury, which starts to spin forward in Taurus, you can utilize this period of 24 days starting from June 3rd to manifest and lay foundations of your ideas judiciously for the benefits in your life. Allow your spirit to align and witness who you are. Retrograde is the perfect time to review and reflect so that when the planet goes direct, you are ready to embark upon your plans constructively and productively. Last but not the least, just to nudge you into awareness, I repeat, Mercury is known as the messenger of Jupiter. In olden days, the close association of Jupiter and Mercury was observed. Jupiter, being the lord of abundance, always graces the human with abundance of choice, and Mercury, who also rules the intellect in human mind, tricks the mind in more ways than one. Hence it is said that Mercury has a different perception in every individual or in every human mind. Whoever has Jupiter well placed, like I said earlier, receives benefits without filter, whereas Mercury, strongly placed, will receive messages of Jupiter and perceive it through the intelligence of Mercury. Now take out your natal charts and observe the placement of your Mercury. It will apprise you of the levels of your intellect and the levels that you can reach. Everyone is blessed with a talent. Find out where your talent lies and take this opportunity to believe in yourself and creating the world you visualize. If you are getting confused as to where your Mercury is and how you can utilize, well, then I'm always there. You could connect with me through my website www.dollymanghat.com and stay blessed.